Today, Marco, Polo, Hammers? Nah, it doesn't sound the same. Well, if you think we're playing a game of tag, you might be right. Next on Live Free and Ham. Hello and welcome to the Live Free and Ham podcast. This is our bi-weekly show during which we discuss ham radio topics in New Hampshire, New England, and beyond. So whether you're a regular listener or a first-time guest, we are excited to have you here and appreciate your support and checking out the show. So let's tune in tonight's episode. As always, let's get in the show. I'm your host, Eric, call sign N1JUR, and I'm with my notorious crew here.
Hey, it's Paul, N1OG.
And I'm Todd, W1STJ.
All right, cool. Well, as always, as we do in every show, before we get into the topic, we got a few things we want to catch you guys up on and just make you aware of, especially if you're a new person here and you're just checking us out for the first time. Our storefront is up on livefreeandham.com/shop. As always, you can head over there and check out some of our awesome merch. We're all sporting our usual Live Free and Ham caps there. We've got a boatload of shirts, and we've got a surprise coming up soon that we're going to be launching on the show. If you are a follower of us and you've been paying attention, a certain host of ours is going to be making a jump, we'll say, and we're going to be putting a commemorative shirt in his favor. You know, if we have to raise it for other reasons, then so be it. But I'm sure he's going to land safely, and everything will be great and ready to to meet Carlos. Sorry about that. We'll edit that in post. And we'll meet Carlos hopefully in October, and both him and Paul will be able to make that jump that we're anticipating. We'll be able to make a 5-2 contact with them. That'd be wonderful. All right. Well, anyway, so as always, we want to thank you if you've purchased stuff from our store, as it helps support the show and keep this mission alive as always. And so with that, there is always other ways that you can support our show. We love the feedback, and you can always send us a feedback through our SMS link in all of our description show notes below. Or if you're the type, you can...
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story.
Hey everybody, we got some news.
Slow down, Boog. Let me handle this. We've got some news. I've got bad news and bad news.
I have reviewed ship's personnel, Captain.
Congratulations, you've got mail.
Well, I have some awesome news, guys. So as we said, we love our reviews. We love our listeners sending us reviews and saying hello. And you guys have heard our cries. So we appreciate you, Rob. And actually, now that I'm thinking about this one, Rob is more of a do good episode. So we're going to hold that one over, and I'm just going to edit this and post edit because I can screw this one up big time. Anyway, well, we're just going to skip over that, and I'm going to cut it out. So between us,
hold on.
Oh, do you have a review?
No. But we did while we were doing POTA, we did get somebody on air that said, "Hey, yes. I love the show."
Yes,
I don't remember the call sign, but really appreciate that.
Yep, actually, this person made a post, Paul. So just a little backtrack here. Paul and I had done a POTA about a couple of days ago, before we recorded this, and I got a post on my Facebook page from a Shannon, and of course I am not anywhere close to being able to pick it up here. Yep, Shannon. I don't have her call sign. She didn't list it here. But she left us a wonderful update saying how she was able to hit a lot of YouTubers when she was out there doing a POTA at activation of park of US 4509 and 6927. So she was doing a twofer, which we appreciate because that helped us immensely with our logs. And she looks like she hit 30 parks, but she was able to get a hold of K-Murder, K8MRD, and myself, and Paul, obviously, Live Free and Ham status. We were all super excited. We didn't make the connection in our head because we were already drinking from the fire hose because that was an intense POTA we'll talk about in a little bit. But outside of that, it was great to see it. Thank you again, Shannon. And I apologize for not having your call sign. I should have looked it up in the logs there. But appreciate you making contact with us and telling how awesome our show is and being a part of that. So thanks again, and appreciate that feedback. So so we do have a review. So nothing in post edit has to get edited out. Thank you, Paul, for saving the day once again. All right, well, so let's get to the real stuff here. As we said, our regular segment here.
Doing good.
You do. That's good.
Do good? Do good?
You're doing good.
Absolutely, I do. Good.
Do it good, Bob. Do it real good.
Right now, my only outlet is my ham radio.
All right. Well, this is our wonderful segment calling Do Good. And if you've just tuned in for this is your first episode, we want to take a little different spin. We know some other podcasts that are out there are looking at, bringing lids to light and salty hams, exposed. But we decided that, we want to take a different route with this. And so, whether you're looking to join a club or you're looking to, participate in the ham radio hobby, we want to highlight the things that are doing good. So we want to highlight our clubs, the people around us, clubs in the greater US and beyond and worldwide. So, we've started this new segment called Do Good, and we're going to again show, and hopefully with the help of you guys, show how clubs are doing good. So we're giving you guys the podium. We're giving you guys the opportunity to promote your club, to show how awesome stuff is going on. And if you don't have a club and you have a group of guys and gals that get together to do a POTA meetup once a month or whatever, we want to hear about it. We want to hear about all the fun, and we want to share it with the rest of our listeners. So we're asking you to send in those reviews. And so you have heard our cries, and we have got a review, or not a review. We got a feedback from 741 and N1 NUG. Sorry about the screw up there, Rob, on the call sign. He sent us a Do Good thing, and he said over the last year or two, the Bears of Manchester, Connecticut Radio Club had done several new things to help serve its members while still keeping on with the club traditions. They've got newsletters, they've got a bunch of projects, and up and coming presentations. So they're a very active club, which is totally awesome to hear. They're obviously doing a lot like some of the other clubs that we've come across, doing general license and technician classes and all the sorts. So they're always looking to promote and bring in new young members to their club. And they just said that they've got a brand new 2-meter repeater. So they're pouring time, resources, and effort into their club to be able to help the ham community, to promote them. And so we are super excited to hear that. And Rob, we give you a thumbs up, and thank you again for telling us all about your club there in Connecticut. So if you are in the local Connecticut area, definitely check out the Bears Club. They've got a ton of stuff. Their website, we'll leave in the show notes description below, so you can check them out. And if you too also have a similar story like your club, we want to hear about it. So make sure you send it to us. You can go up to our website, use the comment form and fill it in, or you can just send it directly to us at livefreeandham@gmail.com and put in the subject line, Do Good, and we will share it with our, at the next episode. And we, want to hear from you. So, keep it coming. Okay. All right. Now, with our usual thoroughfare, with a slight caveat, because remember, Todd threw down the gauntlet with this one, and he said I had to help answer the questions. So we are going to be doing a head-to-head challenge with this one. So let's spin it right into.
And now for something a little extra with Todd, W1STJ.
All right. Well, you heard it here. This is where we help Todd study for his extra class license. Each episode, we pick 3 questions, sir. 3, no more, no less, to help him review the extra class question pool to test his knowledge, hoping he gets his upgrade. We know he will. He's done so far really well, and he's going to continue the streak. So if you'd like to follow along, you can always head over to hamstudy.org. It's a great resource, and they've done some awesome updates to their mobile apps, which Todd has been super excited to talk about, and I too have gone on there and play with it and love it. Great addition, guys. Thank you for all the great hard effort and work you're putting in. You definitely help many future hams to get their ticket. And so without any further delay, I'm going to hand it over to our lovely VE Quizmaster. Take it away, Paul.
All right, Todd. So sticking with sub-element number 2, here is your first question. What is the length of an FT8 transmission cycle? Is it A, 15 seconds, B, 8 seconds, C, it varies with the amount of data, or is it D, 30 seconds?
All right, Paul.
All right. Well, should I pick
I'll go
Should I
first,
pick
and then
first?
you can. No, I'll go
Yeah.
first. I'm
Okay.
going to go with A. 15 seconds.
All right. Well, I am going to agree with you, sir, because I definitely know in my FT8 experience, it is definitely not any of the other one. I'd love to have it vary, but
A is 100% correct.
Great job.
Nice job.
Perfect.
All right.
All right, 1 down, 2 to go for the second question. Which of the following HF digital modes uses variable length character coding? Is it A, RIDI, B, MT63, C, Actor, or is it D, PSK31?
I'm going to go with C.
Oh, man. I don't know. This is one of those things you usually just study the answer because
there's a couple of questions like this and they screw me up.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with A.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go with C, which was Todd's answer. Oh, C is incorrect,
Ooh.
Todd. And Eric selected A.
And I'm
And
wrong,
A is
too.
also incorrect. The correct answer is D, PSK31.
That was my
Man.
second choice.
You know, it's
Hey, I don't
it
feel
was like
bad.
that was
He's
like
an
the obvious
extra.
one in my mind. I was thinking like it's got to be PSK31. I'm like, no, it doesn't. It has to be something else. RIDI's probably the one. Oh man. Oh man.
All right. Well,
You take drugs, Dan?
you're
Every day. Good. So what's the problem?
you're at 50%. For the third and final question, what type of antenna can be used to minimize the effects of spin modulation and Faraday rotation? Is it A, an isotropic antenna, B, a log periodic dipole array, C, a circularly polarized antenna, or D, a linearly polarized antenna?
I'm going to go with C.
Ooh. Well, there. Let's go with A.
Okay. Well, Todd chose C, and C is correct.
Oh, wow. Well, you know, I still have my experience.
Now, it would not be a VE Quizmaster session with Todd if he didn't get 2 out of 3.
Yes. We're making a T-shirt with that, Todd. We're making a T-shirt.
Oh,
I would have never thought of that. I got to admit, you may not be a complete idiot after all.
All right. Well, okay. So, well, if you're on the journey to studying for your technician, general, or extra class,
how many did you get right?
me on my
Yeah.
extra?
Yeah.
I got 1.
Oh, all right. Just want to make that. I want to make that on the record here. Okay. Good.
Okay,
Let's go.
on the record, you heard it here. I still have my extra though. Let me put that on the record. All right. Well, as I said, so if you're on the journey to studying for technician, general, or extra class, make sure you check out hamstudy.org because it's a wonderful resource for getting your ticket. And it, you know, hey, if you've recently received your license or upgraded, we want to know, you know, and we're serious about this. We would like to recognize you on the next episode for your hard work and effort. So email us at livefreeatham@gmail.com, and we are going to make sure we mention you on the next show and, you know, give you the praise that you did, you know, for getting your, you know, upgrade or your technician license or your first technician. So, you know, let us know. We want to celebrate with you. And so we'll leave it at that. You know, in essence, I'm still an extra. Todd's working towards his. And, you know, we're all good. We're all friends here at the end of the day.
Bonus points. If you send us a picture, we'll also throw that up.
Yes, we will push it up. If you send us photos, that's a good idea, Paul. If you send us a photo, we will put you up on our website and recognize you there too as well. So we'll create a section on that. I'd love to promote you guys and keep people, excited about ham radio. All right. Okay. Well, as our usual, let's dive into the typical format. Let me ask Paul, what's been going on in your ham radio week?
Oh boy. This has been one heck of a fantastic ham radio week, if I do say so. Despite the early week G4 storm that we had and all the havoc it wreaked on the propagation, by the end of the week, or midweek to the end of the week, 10 meters, fantastic. Worldwide, 10 meters was wide open. I made a lot of fantastic contacts on 10 meters, both from the shack, which is very, very hard, because my QTH has basically a bowl going around it. And so it tends to block a lot of signals, especially with 10 meters. So it was fantastic today. I had a ton of fun playing on 10 meters and making contacts all around the world. Got to go out to my favorite park the other day. Thanks for accompanying me, Eric. Wrapped up with 111 contacts. So I'm one step closer to that kilo. And yes, I'm just over 600, close to 650.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. With that 100 or that's prior?
No, with the 111, it put me up in that range there. So
nice.
Yeah, so I got another like 350 to go.
Yeah, that'll go quick, man. With days like that, you'll have no problem.
Oh, we couldn't beat the stations away. We had so many DX stations calling us and local stations. I mean, it was just fantastic. Great day.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it was one of those things when I mentioned to Paul when we were there, I said, this reminds me of my very first time doing Parks on the Air when I went out and did my first activation. And I was like 30 contacts and I felt like the pile up and I was like, this is just awesome. I've got to keep doing this all the time and super addicted to it. And, then you kind of get into the lull and you wish for those days to come back. And guess what? Those came back like gangbusters. Cool. All right. Well, that is definitely a good way to wrap up or start of the weekend. But so leading over to you, Todd, how was your, ham radio week?
Well, the day that you guys got lucky and got 100 plus contacts, I went a little earlier to the rail trail and picked up another 25, which put me over 800. So getting closer to our kilo, Eric. And
I know.
It was good. I used my new coax. I liked it. It worked really well. It wasn't really raining, but it was windy and the trees were wet. So I was getting a little wet, but I did it on my lunch break. Was there for about an hour and got a bunch, activated the park, and then I took a break and I went hunting and could hear a lot of stations really like 5-9, but they weren't hearing me. And when I finally got through, there was a bunch at Park to Parks and they said we were all too weak to hear. But I did make some and then I went back to a different frequency, but on 20 meters and finished out with a couple more and ended up with 25. So it was a good day.
How long was that? How long was the activation?
It was about an hour. I was waiting. I mean, it wasn't like an hour of me trying to get, I would say like maybe a half an hour of like activating, calling out, and then about 20 minutes of hunting and sitting on pile-ups trying to get through, and then about 10 minutes at the end, and I probably picked up like 4 or 5 more. But the coax that I got, that Paul recommended, worked very well. It's nice and compact, and yeah, I was happy with it. So it all worked out good. I do know that my battery though is really getting beat up. It's like all peeling apart. Like now I can see the actual batteries inside the plastic. I'm like, I gotta tape that up. But I think if I start, I have to go down to Arkansas again, either in November or December. So I'm gonna need to buy another battery because I think if the TSA sees this battery, they're gonna be like, "What the hell is that?" I mean, it works fine. It's just the plastic is just peeling apart. I think it's just getting beat up in the bag. So might have to go to the candy store and buy myself a new battery. So
Well, I won't stop you from buying a new battery, but I could say the cheaper route is to just like I could send you to AliExpress and you can get like the larger shrink wrap to go over that battery, and then you can just re-shrink wrap it again. And you'll be good. I mean, that's cheaper, but I'm not stopping you from buying a new battery.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Just shrink wrap it over. Yeah, because I was gonna like get the clear duct tape but like it's just peeling apart. So
my experience is don't, because I did that to my 20 amp hour battery, and guess who got stopped at the TSA when we went down to
it looked like it'll look like a bomb or something, right? Like
literally.
like
well, this just doesn't fly, sir, but we'll let it go by. We know what this battery is, and it looks like it's in good condition. I'm like, thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, that was good. I hadn't done a POTA. I think you and I, Paul, went out and did that. I don't think I did. Maybe I did one after that, but it had been a while, and I was itching to go, and it wasn't really the best of day. But I didn't have much going on at work, and I was able to take a lunch break. So I figured I wasn't hungry. I'll just go activate the park. So we'll get there, Eric. One of these days. I mean, I figured I'm going to stop at like 900, and then. That way, we're just gonna have to pick a day and say we're dedicating a day. We're not leaving until we get 100 instead of 10. So,
well, funny with that is like, I still got to catch up. I have no idea where I must be, like 7 something.
Yeah, I think you're like 7:30. We're not that far off. Yeah, you could pick it up in one good activation. So
yeah, we'll have to see if I can get a work up to round numbers, and then that way, we'll match it to you toe to toe, and then I'll stop and then go from there. And actually, Paul and I had to so with my ham radio week, Paul had 2 things. We obviously did a dual POTA op POTA this weekend at Russell Abbott. Great place. I mean, it was a little spitty and rainy, but Paul's official umbrella set up there kept everything dry, and we were shielded by trees. So I think, for most of the, activation wasn't terribly that bad. I mean, it was a little raw for sure, but as long as you had a sweater on, you were good. The 2 things that I learned, obviously, and it's kind of funny because we made a little joke, because I know, Todd, anytime you and I have done an activation, we always say last call, and then you're like that little guy at the starfish. While the starfish wash up on the beach, you have to throw everyone back. Well, like, Paul knows how to shut the volume off. He's just like, we're going QRT. And then the next thing, instead of even touching the mic, he just turns the volume off. Can't hear it. Gone. No. I'm like, I know Paul, I know Todd would be there for another more hour and a half trying to make sure he got everybody in the log, which is awesome. But gosh, we would have been there till like midnight. that was pretty intense.
I would have stayed.
I know.
You would have left, and I would have stayed. I would be like, we're in this pile up. I'm not leaving.
Yeah, that was the pile up for me of my life so far. I've been in a few, but that one took the cake, I think, from the moment we started to the moment it ended.
It's a good activation when like you have to actually break to get a drink of water and your voice is starting to go hoarse. You're talking so much.
Yep. Or worse off, you're recording it and you have to stop while the other person's still answering all the calls. So you can like switch the batteries in the camera, because it's like the camera had already worn down at that point, and we were like, we gotta still keep filming this. And so yeah, it was definitely one of the, it will go down in the record books for me, just being able to go out and again, and I know you had mentioned this on the last episode or 2 before, the antenna that came to save our butts again was the Bug Out Mini by Reliance Antenna. That thing was on point. No problem. 10 meters, picking calls. Like, I mean, literally 10 meters felt like I was just watching Paul activate, and the people that he was talking to were coming in 5.9 plus 20 over, 5.9 plus 40 over in some cases. It was just like, they were literally sitting there next to us having a conversation. And then when we got into 20, it was the same thing. Like, there was no point. Like, we would kind of laugh when people would be like, yeah, we're giving you a 5.7, 5.8. And I'm like, dude, I can hear you, and you're like literally crystal clear in the conversation. There's no way we're a 5.7, 5.8, I'm sure. And so, it was just bliss. I'll have to say that. I mean, that just basically.
It's an awesome antenna.
Yep.
God, everyone should have one.
Yep. Yeah, dude. Head over to Reliance Antenna. You want to save some money, use our affiliate code for 10% off. Put Live Free and Ham as the code, or N1JUR, and you'll get 10% off and free shipping. So head over there, grab yourself one. Well worth the money. Well worth the antenna itself. Good design, and Matt's a great guy. So we can't thank him enough for putting something out there that rescued a lot of us that were all looking for end feds antennas and couldn't get the pack antennas because they didn't exist or they weren't in production or they were, behind in production. And, and again, not to slam the Cars antennas or anything. Those are great antennas too. But the form factor for Reliance is literally in the palm of your hand. You can't go any wrong with that. So, yeah. Well, so kind of with that, it kind of
it's in a case like this.
Yeah, well, yeah, we can see it. Put it in for your show.
That's it. Right there.
Totally. That is
the whole
full
thing.
complete antenna. That's a 40 through 10, 40 through 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
no, I gotta say, Eric, you are remiss to not give yourself credit for the one time that I got caught with my pants down and I wasn't prepared.
I totally forgot about this.
No, I know we have talked about preparedness several times when it comes to going out in the field, and I am the nth level of preparedness always.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was scrambling. I was rushing out the door. I had to call the ARRL to pay the exam fees, and so my mind just wasn't with it. And I knew that I had my backup battery standing by on my toolbox, ready to go, but I forgot to throw it in the truck. And wouldn't you know that my POTA battery was about half dead because I hadn't charged it from the last POTA. And so, yeah, Eric and I are going strong. We're working a heck of a pile up, and the battery dies.
Right in mid QSO. Mid QSO, always. the poor guy. It was his call sign was WB4. I'll have to look all that up, but yeah, it was like I grabbed mine. I had it on. I knew I was going to just bring it anyway, but I left it in my bag, and I kind of said, "Hey," jokingly, I'm like, "If your battery starts to go, we always have mine in the background." He's like, "Yeah, I think we'll be okay." And literally midway, WB4 radio goes dead, and Paul's like, "Oh man, it's like at 10 volts. This thing's not going to come back on at all." And I'm like, "Hey, guess what? We got our battery," and lo and behold, plug back in, back on the road. Yes, just bring an extra friend with a whole bunch of equipment. I think that's the other alternative.
Tell you, one of my buddies that I fly with, he lives out in Peterborough, and the field is like an hour away from him. He brings all his crap. He's got everything, and when you put these bigger planes together, they have wing tubes which go through the fuselage. It keeps the wing steady. And it's what the wing goes into. He brings all his crap. He's all ready to go. He left the wing tube at home. Oh no, not the wing tube, the wing bolts. So when you put it in, you bolt them in, and they're not it's not like a screw. It's like a special bolt. And he totally forgot it. And he's like, I'm like, "How come you're not flying?" He goes, "I left the bolts at home." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" He goes, "An hour drive." So I said, "You can fly one of my." He refused to fly. He goes, "Nope, I'm not doing it." And I'm like, "Don't worry, man." I go, I went down there like a week before that, and I get all the way down, and I forgot all my batteries. So I get down there, I'm unloading, and I'm like, "Where are the batteries?" I blame my son for that one. I'm like, "Zach, I told you to get all the crap." He goes, "I did. Everything you took out." I goes, "Did you see the batteries?" He goes, "No." I'm like, "Did you think to maybe ask me if I had the batteries?"
No. He just picked up the crap.
Yeah. So I was like, bummer. So happens to the best of us. And I did a POTA once. I went all the way to Vermont. I forgot coax.
Oh, yeah, I do remember
that. Remember that one? That one was bad. I was pissed. And of course, it's Vermont. Like I couldn't even run the Walmart because there wasn't a Walmart to even get coax.
No, but yeah, they would be like, "What's coax?" We have TV coax.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, those are the mishaps. I think we'll have to do an episode on those because I'm sure there are plenty of people that have those stories. We'll have to maybe consult our audience.
That'd be a good live episode to have everyone in the chat talking about all their. And we won't feel all alone, Paul.
Yeah, and actually, we did forget to. Well, at this point, it won't matter. So I'm not even bothering to mention it. But ultimately, our live streams will be coming up soon for September. So make sure you're in tune with that. I know when this airs, it'll be in October. But either way, pay attention for the October streams because they're always a blast. We enjoy doing them, and we may actually talk about what we just mentioned. So it'll work out pretty good for October. But with our episode today, we're going to talk, like I said, not about Marco Polo and playing, childhood pool games. That's not the topic there. So if you were tuning in this far and assuming we were going to talk about those, sorry. we're going to talk about portable loggers tonight. Because we've all had a chance to really get our teeth sunk into, the new logger out there that, people have been talking about. There's been a lot of YouTubers and videos out there about Polo. But we wanted to kind of share our thoughts because we both come from both sides of the camp there. We've all been Hammers users for a long time. We all cut our teeth on it, loved it, still love it. I mean, it's not a bad app. It's still great. But the new one on the scene is Polo. And so we're going to talk a little bit about those. We'll share with you, if you've never heard anything about any of these loggers out there and you're a paper person, and you're interested in getting into portable logging for, summits on the air or POTA or anything in between. And actually even, we'll probably talk about a little bit the Polo app, and even Hammers does a little bit of field day and stuff like that. So you can use those loggers for those types of events. So, we'll talk a little bit about those and hopefully share our thoughts on them. And I think we'll probably lean a little bit more towards Polo because I think all of us really have a deep affection for it. I know I do. I love the app now more than say Hammers, but Hammers in terms of getting up and running fast, it's a great app. So with that, obviously let's kind of level set here. So, when we started in the logging side of things, did you guys all just dive into, picking the latest one like Hammers when it was on the market, or would you guys start logging paper when you started doing POTA activations?
No, I did. I was Hammers right off the start. I downloaded on my phone. I believe I downloaded on my phone as we were driving to my first park after I got my General. Right?
I do remember.
You're like, you have to download this. So I downloaded it and didn't know how to work it. And then I used it up until recently when I tried Polo. And I loved Hammers. It was easy to use. It was very, very basic, simple, easy to export. And it was a great app for me doing the POTA stuff. It just works, and it worked on my iPad. It's a little better. Both of them are a little bit better on an iPad or a computer or a laptop versus the phone, but it's easy either way. So if you didn't have one time I did at a park and I forgot my my iPad. So I did log it on the phone, which was cool that it was able to do that. So, but that's how I started. And then just recently, I'd say my last 5 or 6 activations, I tried the Polo out, and we'll talk about that later on.
How about you, Paul? You start paper logging, or when you started to finally get away from the digital world into sideband and whatnot? What was your kind of plan of attack?
So I think I jumped right into Hammers. I hardly ever paper log. It's usually like field day, prior to field day, all those kind of contacts. I'll paper log those. But what I will say, the biggest upside to Hammers over Polo is when you're out at a park with no service. Polo takes an hour to freaking load. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have some type of connection, then the park references don't load, and the QRZ lookups don't work. And at least with Hammers, what I would do is I would come back out of the field where I'm sitting here and I've got internet, and I would go through my log and I would update everybody. Yep. And so it would look them up, and it would input all their information, and then it's beautiful and it's perfect, and I send it up to myself through email. And I don't know, maybe there's a way to do it in Polo that I haven't figured out yet. But
I'll relieve that pain from you and show you how to do it. But yes, there is a way to do that.
All right, yeah, because I got home from our activation the other day, and I used Polo even though I didn't have internet connectivity. So it said that I was in an unknown park, which is fine, and I think at one point I did get a little bit of internet connectivity, so like the hotspot was functional, and so I did have a couple people where their info was in there, but there was no quick, intuitive way for me to update everybody. And so I'll look to you for that.
Okay. Well, so we'll talk a little bit about that. We're kind of diving into some of the feature sets of both the apps. I think, obviously it sounds like we're all kind of in the same boat. We all knew that we did not want a paper log when we were out in the field whatsoever, had no desire. My handwriting is worse than a doctor's. So I know for a fact that I would need to have some type of keyboard type entry or whatever, and so Hammers was my start. Hammers was really good. Yeah, exactly. So hey, for our podcast listeners, Paul's holding up his chicken scratch on a paper, and it's sort of like mine. I think with Hammers, when we first started with it, it was enough to get most folks going in terms of park reference information. If you did have a cell service or you had like a data plan on a tablet or something like that, you could get the benefits of doing call sign lookup and through QRZ and updating. The benefit to that was always, if you're like a visual person like myself, you could look at the map, and from that QRZ lookup data, you could see where the points were in terms of how far you might go or whatever. Now, it didn't give you any of that range information, but it was kind of cutting edge for a lot of the loggers, I think, when it first came out. And I don't know, you guys agree with that? I mean, when you first started poking around stuff, I mean, nobody was putting HRD on a laptop, right?
No,
Not that I know of.
I found it. I thought Hammers was great because it's designed to be a mobile logger, and then I would just export it and add it to my larger log, and then send it to the POTA site to upload the logs. So I just, and it was so simple to use. Like it's not complex. You don't have to be like, anyone could get it for the first time and just do it. Like it's not like, I mean, if you've done any log, even if it's your first log, you'll figure it out. It's like, put the call sign in, and it has all the boxes. It's very simple, and it works great when you're doing POTA activations and anywhere. Or if you're if you want to activate, like using my Flex, and I don't have my computer, my log on the computer, and I start making contacts, you can use either one of them as just a regular log. So I've done that too. When I was working, messing around on HF, I would just use them as a log.
Well, for everybody that is like me and anti-Apple, let me tell you that Hammers and Polo both work on all devices. I use a Kindle Fire tablet. That's my POTA thing. So it works.
Great. Yep. Yeah, that's actually a good point. So like, when you get into these apps, you don't have to worry about what platform. So if you're a Linux guy or gal and you're a Mac guy, and you there is a version for you on all of those platforms, both apps, so you don't lose out on any one thing. Now, we're going to touch base in a little bit some of the cooler functions now that Polo kind of brings to the scene that Hammers doesn't have, which hopefully eventually will come around. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't been in the Hammers camp in a while. So, with that, I kind of, realized that I'm not looking back. I still have Hammers on my phone, but
are they both free? I can't remember. Did you have to pay for Polo?
Hammers, at least on the iPhone side, you had to pay $5 for it. That's what I had to pay.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
I can't remember.
Yeah, but I think the Linux and the Windows versions are free.
Yeah, the Windows version is free, but I think for mobile, it's not. Yeah, I mean, they're, like I said, it's worth $5. I mean, all day long, and I leave both of them on. I leave both of them on my iPad and my iPhone. I am an Apple guy, and Paul's made it very clear he's not. But and I
have to split the difference for both my kids. Sorry.
So anyway, but like I said, I've had that with the Polo, that it does take sometimes if you don't have a signal, and I'm in. I live in Amherst, New Hampshire, and I have Verizon. We have no signal. So if anyone from Verizon's listening to this, get your freaking shit together and get me some service. But like I said, they're both great. And like I said, I've switched to Polo, and I will talk about why I like it better. But there's no reason, if you're like one of these guys that doesn't like change or whatever, then stick with Hammers, because it does work.
Now, the nice part about Hammers so far is so you're not going to lose the functionality. So if you're familiar with how POTA used to be K as all of the park designations, Polo Hammers has gotten to the point where it's now updated database wise, so you're in sync with the database list that the POTA the parks organization or POTA's organization's putting out, and that stuff is current. I don't, so I know, if you've never been in Hammers before, and let me kind of give you a quick layout, and then we'll kind of dive into Polo, because it'll at least help you set a foundation if you're thinking about going one way or another. Hammers, like we said, it's all very small. It's very its footprint. It runs on multiple devices. The big thing with Hammers is that you probably have to have a little bit of information to add to it to get a log set up. And really all that is you're going to need to obviously know the park number you're at and the park designator, because you're going to have to manually enter that in, because there's no real lookup in Hammers. Is that correct, guys? You have to know that in advance.
Yeah, I don't believe there's a lookup yet.
Okay.
Yeah, if you put the park number in, it highlight, like it brings it up, but it doesn't have like in Polo, it'll if you're in connection,
Let's not cut out of the bag yet. Yeah, the Polo is going to be way easier.
Yeah.
So once you set up your log, you designated the park information and a couple other small little details like your call sign and operator and that stuff in the field.
And grid.
And grid. And if you do grids, I mean, it's not mandatory. You're off to the races, and at that point you're just logging. Now, if you've got QRZ capabilities and a data, connection out to the internet for the device you're on, you can easily do QRZ lookups. So the one thing I loved about it is that if I made a contact, I typed in a call sign, it would give me the call sign's first and last name, rough location and stuff like that. And then it would put it on a map that I could see in real time as I started to make contacts. And that was my kind of candy for the app, because I'd be like, oh, this is really cool. I can see all of like where I'm reaching, how far my antenna is going, which I took to the other side of the coin where it's like, I can play around with my ground radials and see if I go one direction or another. And what I ended up finding out is based off the time of day, it was more like, oh, I'm always going to be East Coast, or, DX is going to be some more than just whether I put my ground radials in a certain direction. But yeah, I thought that was the very cool option. And as Todd, you alluded to, in Hammers, the ADIF export was always wicked easy. So if you had a simple, option to be able to go to your, Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever, you could send your file there and then come home to your computer and, upload it to the POTA website. So it really made, activations wicked easy. Now, we all know that Hammers went through a lot of pains too, and crashes, and everybody used to hate Hammers for a long time, which it hasn't been that way in a while, but there used to be a lot of pitchforks and torches with Hammers and crashes. But that kind of, I think, that impetus speared a few people on to come out with a better logger, or at least a improved logger, because Hammers had gotten long on the tooth, as we all know. It was a good logging app and it did its job, but there was nothing on the scene to replace it. So now Polo shows up. When did you guys kind of hear wind of Polo, and when did you decide to like make sort of a toe in the water attempt?
Well, you told me about it, and I downloaded it. I think we were at Prest for doing a breakfast thing, and I tried it out and played around with it. And like I said, I'm a guy that needs to put my hands on it and actually use it to see to figure out how to use it. But once I started using it, I was like, wow, this is what I like. And one of the things that I do like is I like looking at Hammers for me. And I know, like, Eric, you never had this problem, but a lot of times we'd be at the same spot, doing a double activation, and it wouldn't log all my on the map, right? Like if you I'd get like maybe 3. I'm like, we have like 40 contacts. I got 3 on the map. Like, what's going on with that? And then I would check, and they were all checked green and they all updated. So the map it sometimes didn't work, and it worked for Eric. It wouldn't work for me. It could have been an Apple thing. Who knows? But with Polo, it works all the time. And what I liked about Polo is, and Hammers, the map, it's either you're logging or you're looking at the map, right? Like, and on Polo, I can be logging, and then you have a quarter screen, or at least on my iPad it is, and then you could be looking at the map, you could looking at spots, you could be looking at your the info. So there's different things you can see. So I could actually have the map, log in, do all this stuff, and still see the map live coming up of where I'm making contacts and where my range is. Instead of clicking back and forth, I can just have it out in front of me, and you can pick what you don't have to see the map, but if you want to, it's there. So that's what I liked, and I've never had a problem of it not logging my contacts on the Polo map. So that was a big thing for me, is like it just worked smoother. And there's a lot of other things, but Paul, I'll let you go and
well, to answer your question, Eric, So when Polo first came out, I believe that Mike Dahlhofer, K-Murder, with this awesome German last name. I love it. I think he was the first one to do a video on it. And so I downloaded it right away and I played around with it. And it was really cool, even in the initial beta testing. And it was cool to kind of get in on the beta before it was actually released. They've definitely made a lot of fantastic improvements. Like Todd said, if you've got it on a tablet in landscape mode, it is great that you've got that kind of sidebar and you can click through those tabs while not losing your contact entry field and your log. But yeah, I found out because of Mike.
Okay. So, all right. So since we're kind of getting into some of the feature specs, somebody want to take a little kind of quick walkthrough of why, Polo is so much easier to set up and get configured and on the ground running, or, because I think it's well worth mentioning,
It auto populates everything. I mean, it even makes the title you don't have to put in, like on Hammers, you got to actually name the log. And on Polo, you just create new log. Oh, I want to do POTA, and what park are you at? And it'll show you the parks that were within your area. Right. So, the close. Yep. Yeah. And it'll say this park is and I mean, I'm at the National Rail Trail. It's a long trail. So you could be anywhere. It said it was 10 miles away, but that's where it's pointed on the POTA map in Massachusetts. I was on the Nashua side, but you have a list. You just click that. All the information is there. And then basically you just type in what frequency you're on and you're good to go. It puts the grid, it just auto populates everything. So I find it's a lot quicker to set up, to get going. Like you turn it on, click POTA, type in your park number and what frequency you're on, and boom, you're ready to go. It's that quick and everything's auto-populated. And you don't have to write a title, you don't have to save it, and it's all ready to be, as soon as you're done, you can export it right then and there, and it sends it right to the POTA app, to the uplog section, and that's it. So that's what I thought. It was just awesome that everything is just done for you, and it's accurate.
So Paul, go ahead, describe a little bit. Obviously I know you're a big fan of it too, as well. What's the flow kind of look for you a little bit, and what kind of obviously Todd's like, oh, it's wicked simple, and he's 100% dead on. But I know there's some little tidbit features in there that I could see in your eyes going I got to talk about this. So go ahead.
Just interrupt me.
No, it's all good, Todd. You're fine.
Totally, man.
But so I think I have a love-hate with Polo. And in a lot of ways, there's many times where I go out in the field and Polo takes so long to load because I have zero cell service and I can't take advantage of any of the features that require cell service that make Polo great. And so I go back to Hammers because Hammers just freaking works. It's simple. I don't need a cellular network. I could just, this is what it is. This is what it is. This is what it is, and go. But I will say, to Todd's credit, right, that yes, 100%, if you are in a location that has cell service, 100% hands down, it beats Hammers day in, day out, every day, because you've got the self-spotting and, the QRZ lookups and the map, and the layout is fantastic. Everything's very intuitive. Entering park to parks is a lot simpler. You don't even have to do the US. You just type the number, comma, and it'll give you the separate entries for each of those parks. So as long as you've got cell service, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you go ahead.
I was going to say, the couple. Go ahead, get your thought out, my friend.
I was just saying, that was one of the things when I get park to parks. Like if you get park to park, they've got two parks and there's two operators. You're just like, and I would always get screwed up. I find it with Polo, just being able to crank in as soon as they give you, just type it in that number and then comma, next number. And it just auto-populates it and you're good to go. And I know, Eric, you were saying, and I didn't realize this, but you can talk about how if you tap it, you said it'll just know.
Yeah. added in. So if the spotter, in this case, if the park to park is in the spotters list, which 9 times out of 10 it usually is, it'll automatically know based off that call sign, as long as that's the primary call sign that it pulls from the entry in the spotting page, that's the associated park with it. Now I wanted to step back a little bit because one of the things you guys forgot to mention in Polo that I thought are really cool, that obviously when you log into the app itself, you're going to get into, it does a database check every once in a while. So, and the database is, again, we probably weren't clear enough in the beginning, is that Polo isn't really per se just parks on the air. It does flora and fauna. It does field days, both of them. It does a generic log. It also does SOTA's database. So when you go into the app and you set things up, you can say, hey, I want SOTA, POTA, flora and fauna, whatever. And then it goes out and gets those databases. So it always, every once in a while does a check. And that's kind of what Paul is alluding to, is that if you don't have a cell phone connection, that database has never been updated or last updated, the app just slogs. It's slow. I mean, I've been witness to that. And it's one of those things that you have to kind of now in your mindset of, when I go out to activate a park, before I leave, I have to go update my tablet, with all of the database from the app for the 5-10 minutes. It's sort of like in the Apple world where, if you don't back up your iPad, it constantly tells you over and over again, you need to back up, because you're 17 days out. So I always make that just kind of a process. So I've sort of done that, although when I went with Paul and activated, I didn't do that. So, once again, I'm a bad example of, being consistent.
Well, that's why, like I said in the beginning, that, I keep Hammers on because, if I was at Lang Station, which is a park, I don't even know, where is that, in Ware or Goffstown, or it's in the middle of nowhere, but there's no service there. So like when I mean no service, I couldn't even spot myself. So I had to get my first contact and ask the guy, could you mind spotting me? I have no service here. But at that point, I don't think, I would probably never even be able to get on. It wouldn't even open up, probably, is my guess. So I would just go right there.
Eventually.
Eventually.
It did
but
for me.
Eventually.
Right. Eventually. But Hammers, you click it, it just pops up. Now I won't have all the maps and stuff, but at least I can get going and get my login. And if you're in time.
Yeah. So the one thing I really loved that I thought was like really smart was like the one thing I can't do in Hammers, and we all know, is that, hey, I've activated it. So if I'm doing a twofer, I don't have the capability to select both parks in the same log in Hammers to be able to create, when I'm finally done with it, 2 separate log files for those parks. But when I'm in Polo, when I go to create a new entry or a new log, I can select a SOTA if I'm at a SOTA. I can select a POTA, and if it's a twofer POTA, I can put the 2 parks in there based off of the grid square I get. And if it happens to be a worldwide flora and fauna park at the same time too, I can put all of that information into the log file even before I start logging. So when I go to actually start the log, all that data is already there. Now, the piece that I really enjoy a lot is the QRZ lookup of the park. So like when you go, or not the QRZ, the database lookup. So when you go to select by your grid square, it says here, these are all the parks in the area that I think you might be around, which is awesome, because if you're in a park that has a couple different numbers and you can't remember it, or you're like me and you get dyslexia and you reverse the number and you're like, why isn't this park right? And you go to upload the log and it's wrong, and you find out you reversed the 3 and a 6. The not that I can't say how, ask me why, but the thing is that you just tap, it's literally just all about the tap. So once you've got yourself set up, you're in the log, and like you guys have mentioned, some of the features in there I think are worth mentioning that differ between that and Hammers, because we all love the Hammers, real-time view, but that is 100%, and Polo is the same way. It's 100% geared off of your data plan. So if you don't have a data plan, you ain't going to get an updated map. But in Polo, there are a couple of features that I really love that I'm willing to share with you guys. I don't know, I'm curious to see what features you like once you're in the log that you think are cool that it may not be in Hammers that are in Polo. Any features that kind of stick out for you guys when you're logging?
Well, I know that you can change the signal reports. So you could either have your signal report first or the signal report so you can mix that around. I mean, that's kind of yeah. And I mean, I also like, and I don't know, I've never really known, because you can't see on hammers, you can't have like the list. Does it even have spots on hammers? I didn't even think. Probably not. Does it?
They
But
have
you,
a spotting tab. It
but
does.
you can't.
Oh, is there now?
Well, it's always been there, but you have to have a data plan.
Right. All right. So
Bro,
anyway, but
you have to have
one of the-
internet.
Yeah. Right.
So one of the things that I like with is you can see if you go on a spot page and you're doing it, you can see who you've worked because it crosses it out for that for that time. So then like I like to go and I'll hunt. If I hunt first or I don't, or if I do a thing and say, all right, I'm going to go hunting, I already can see who I've already worked, because you could forget it if you have a lot of contact, you don't know, but it automatically strikes them out, so you've worked them. Or if you hear them calling you and you see like, oh, that guy, and you can just say, hey, N1OG, I already worked you about 20 minutes ago. Thanks for hunting, and then move on to the next guy. So so you're not just like, the poor guy's not just trying to work you, and he's already worked you. But yeah, I think that's a kind of cool. I like that too, and I like the way I can mix it up. Like if I don't really care, I can watch the map and see, but I'm still in the log at the simultaneous, like the split screen. That's my biggest thing. I think is what I like it, the best.
Now, go ahead, Paul. I've got a couple myself, but I'm curious to see what your favorite kind of features, at least when you're in the logging state of it.
Well, so, and this is where, like, I'll again express my frustration with needing cell service, because like the POTA that Todd came out and joined me on, right? And it was Todd's first time out at my favorite park, and I wanted to show him a good time. And so I'm getting all set up and get my logger going, and literally Polo didn't load until I think Todd had made like 5 contacts already, and it's still, I'm waiting for it to load. And so I said, screw this. And I closed it and I opened Hammers, and wouldn't you know, I hadn't used Hammers since I had changed my call sign. And
oh boy.
Yeah, well, a long time. Yeah, so you need internet access to modify all that stuff, because you got to do the QRZ login and everything. So I literally had to just say, hey Todd, can you just email me your log when you're done?
Yeah.
So I gotta say, I love how feature rich and easy to use Polo is, but everywhere I go, I love to be where I don't have cell service, because that's the point of radio for me. I want to get away. So on that end, it's got a big heavy downside.
And okay. I'll say this: my old iPad, and I actually bought a new one because I couldn't stand my old one, because I didn't have the plan on it. So I would always hotspot it, and the hotspot is not as good as a direct. So now that I've got my iPad that has its own service, I think it's more likely to connect than if I was doing a hotspot, like from my phone to the iPad, So, and that's why I was able to get on it. But there's very little. I mean, it was like maybe 1 or 2 bars, that we were, like we were really on the edge of losing it. But like I said, if it didn't work, I would have done what Paul did. I would have just gone to Hammers, but I haven't changed my call sign, so a long time ago. So okay, I'd be good to go, and he'd still be out. But I did email him I did, right? I emailed it to you. Yeah, so we got it.
Yeah, you did.
So okay, so there are these features I'm going to probably talk about are available without internet in Polo. So these are the ones that I think a lot of people overlook until they pick up on them and realize it. I'm a big, I'd say a huge stats fan, but I like stats a lot, with the purpose of like, how am I progressing? How am I getting better? How am I able to manipulate a pile up to get better, in terms of turning more queues. Now, I don't use that more than just kind of a fun thing to do for myself to see how I challenge myself. But Polo, Hammers doesn't have this. Hammers, when you log in Hammers, it just puts the date, it puts a timestamp on it. So you have to calculate from the first log, for the first log entry to the last log entry, to roughly see how far you've gotten, how many you've made in terms of contacts to activating the park, or for the overall duration. Polo took that to the nth degree and put in 2 of my wonderful favorite features. One is your queue rate. meaning that if you're a contester, you know what that is. I'm not a contester, but a Q rate basically is when you made your last contact to the next contact, how long was that duration? And so where we had talked earlier about Paul and I in our, what was your ham radio week, we were talking about how we were drinking from the fire hose. When I saw our Q rate and I was watching on my Polo app, our Q rate was like about, 30 seconds to a minute. And then we were in the huge pileup. And that's when I was like, oh, well, we can knock that down. And we dropped that from a minute to, well, actually it was like 35, 40 seconds to almost 15, 20 seconds a contact. And that Q rate just helped us move faster through, all of that pileup. And at the same time, it also logs your overall duration. So like, if I want to because we all hear the YouTubers when they're like, oh, I go out to my favorite park and I can do it in 20 minutes and get it activated, or 5 minutes and get 10 contacts in 5 minutes. And so I that's a little personal challenge for me as I kind of get out here and activate more in the fall. Can I activate a park in, rough conditions or even in great conditions and do it less than 5 minutes or whatever? And so it keeps all of that stats.
Yeah. It also shows you what your rate is per hour.
Yeah,
at the given moment. So like if you you'll have a whole bunch and it'll be like, oh, you're in an hour you'll have 50 contacts, and then you get a dull, and then you see that number drop down like now within an hour you're gonna be at like 25. You're like, what the hell happened? I mean, that is a feature that I do look at that, and I do like that a lot. And I think the development of this app or this logger was really thought out of, and I think they were clearly people that went out in the field and said, okay, these are the things that we want while we're in the field, and what would be beneficial to an app that you were going to log, and they just made it work. It's very clean. It's very, like I said, if you have the internet going, it's perfect. If you don't have the internet going, all right. I do have one issue with both of them, and when we go to issues, I can tell you that I don't like on both of them. I wish they had. Want me to go for it?
Well, let's. There's only one other feature that I wanted to kind of bring that I thought was really cool. Now, and this was actually, I'm trying to think of who. Oh, it was Mike N2MAK had sent me this little blurb on Discord, and I didn't even, I've always been teased by Todd, when we go out and do parks on the air activations. Like, oh, Eric N1JUR, he's a super famous guy, a famous YouTuber, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm the small little fish in the pond in the comparison of the larger, audience.
At least you're in the pond.
Not anymore, you're not.
No, right. Exactly. In comparison to N1OG over here, his dog's more famous than him. But,
yeah, but that doesn't come up on Polo when people put me in.
No, so dovetail into, Mike N2MAK, he sends me a screenshot. Hey, you're famous now. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And in the screenshot, apparently, when you do a QRZ lookup of the contact's name in Polo, at the very bottom right above where you're typing the contact call sign, pops up a little display. And sometimes if it's a DX contact, it'll put the flag of the country there, which is a really cool thing. If it's a park to park, it puts Christmas trees in the log and stuff like that. But it also posts now. If you got Polo, you can pull it open on your phone right now and type in a log file K8MRD, and guarantee the next thing you will see is his name and his call sign, and then a link to his YouTube page. Now that's all done by the developer. I do now. I don't know how it got there.
I worked you the other day, and I like, oh, what's that? And then I was like, oh, he's the famous YouTuber. There we go.
So now it does those lookup.
Well, that's awesome too, because I'm not, I can't remember everyone's YouTube call sign. I mean, I know the main ones, but you never know. Like you might work someone and they might have a YouTube channel, and you can go check it out. You can find a new YouTube. So it is kind of cool.
That is definitely cool. But like you actually touched the nail on the head again. Call sign. So the one thing Polo's done phenomenal, which I love, is that you've got all your logs in Polo that you've done from the day you started to the day current log you've got. It keeps track of all of those call signs in there. So when you're typing in the new log that you open up activation, it says you've worked this person before. So that for me is like an awesome indication, because now I can be like, oh, I worked this person before. And if I had, QRZ lookup over internet working, I'd be able to say Sally or Bob, hey, how's it going? Versus trying to go into my thick gray matter and try to remember what their name was. And a good example is I've got a hunter that has been hunting me forever. You remember Bruce, Kilo Alpha, the Kilo Alpha 9 India Charlie Pop. Kilo Alpha 8 or Kilo Alpha 9. No, Kilo Alpha 8 because it's Ohio. India Charlie Papa. Remember Bruce, every time he calls, I'm like, hey, Bruce, how's it going? And so I couldn't remember his name when I saw his call sign pop up because I haven't talked to him in a long time. And I froze and I'm like, what is his name? What is his name? And I'm still trying to log the contact. And then I know Paul's kind of sitting with me. He's like, why is he delaying? I know. And then I finally, at the very end, thanks, Bruce. I couldn't remember your name. And so, Bruce, if you're a listener, I appreciate you. Sorry, I couldn't make the name to the connection. But yeah, he's one of those guys that would be awesome to know that every time that pops up, hey, I've worked him before and so forth and so on. So that's boil.
But that's like on a your main logger, that you use in your shack and that you put all your logs in. That True. Has that. Mine has. You can go and click the call sign and it'll list every time you've ever worked them. So it is cool that you can now see it. Especially
but now you've got a Polo personal reference that if you continue to keep adding to Polo, now you'll be like, oh yeah, we worked this person before, and they're following us around and they're, especially if we go to do our POTA Rove in October, if we get another 70-degree afternoon day, you might have to take work off, but we'll go do another Polo and we'll convince Paul and a couple other guys to talk from the other side, and we'll meet somewhere in the middle like our master plan that we talked about before. But
yeah, no, it's definitely, it's got a lot of cool features like that, and I agree. I think that little thing with, you said, the YouTube link, and when you do a park to park, it puts a little pine tree on it, and it's just kind of cool, and it's just very clean and it's very smooth is the only way I could describe it. And like I said, if you got the internet, it's the way to go. But I'm not getting rid of Hammers, and my one issue with both of them is they're not cloud based. So if you were on, I use my iPad all the time, but if I don't have my iPad, I forget it or whatever, and I only have my phone, it's like a fresh, I've never used it before. So that's kind of, if they're listening or watching this, if at some point we get it cloud-based where it would just link to all devices, the same info, it would just make it that much better.
Okay. So that kind of dovetails to my last question that I wanted to pose on you. Paul, any kind of since we're talking about the features that just rub you the wrong way, obviously internet's a big one for you, but anything else?
Loading time.
Well, yeah, definitely the time it takes to load is god awful. But I will say that I did notice, even though I didn't have service, TLY Ralph, he got me on 10 meters, and then after you showed up, he got us again, but he got us on 20. And as soon as I typed his call sign in, even though there was no internet, it said, new band. And I thought that was really cool, that it was like, oh, all right, it's telling me that I've already got him on a different band, but this is a new band. And yeah, so I did really like that.
Yep. Okay, cool. All right. So obviously any other kind of features that rub you the wrong way that you just want to kind of, clear the palette with, or, we ready to kind of get into the last question before we kind of put a little wrap up to this?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, so the last question I have, and I want to pose to you, obviously we've been talking about Polo a lot, and this can even, tie into Hammers too. What future features are your top 3, if you have top 3 that you want to say, hey, if the developer was listening to the show, maybe, I don't know if Polo's does, if he doesn't, great. Maybe somebody will forward it on to him and say, hey, you should check the show out. We'd love to hear, give him more feedback on it because it's a great app and good start. But, for your feature, improvements, what 3 things, if you have 3, that you'd want to tell the Polo developer that you say, we need to have this in order to make this app the app that replaces all apps?
All right. So 1, if you download all the databases before you go out in the field, right, make the app load faster. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't have to wait 10 minutes for the app to load. That's absurd. I want it up in 60 seconds or less. So that's number one. Make the app load faster. I want to be ready to roll 60 seconds or less. Number two, I do agree with Todd with the ability to sync your data across multiple devices, because yes, we don't always remember to bring that device out with us, and so if I'm on my laptop, right, I want to be able to sync it, and so that everything is all good. And I think other than that, man, like, you guys are doing a great job. Keep up with it. I love the layout. I love everything else. The ability to spot yourself if you've got internet connectivity, and all of the internet connectivity features are fantastic. I just wish that it was just a little bit smoother for those of us that don't always have internet connectivity.
Makes sense. All right, cool.
Yeah, I think those are great. I also, I think, like you said, it needs to be able to either sync or be cloud-based, so it's constantly talking to all devices. But one thing that neither of them do, and I think that would be a huge plus, I think it would be a game changer, is if you could submit the log right to POTA. Like that.
Oh, man, you took my thought. That was
that
my
would
killer
be
point.
like, you know what I mean? Like, you're done and you just say submit to POTA and hit the button, and it does the thing ADI, and it just goes, and then you're not going on and it just, that would be, I mean, look, it's not that big of a deal. It's not really that hard, but like for me, what I do is I send it to my files on my iPad. I have a files for my POTA activations, and then I then just go to the app, the POTA app, and then I just upload it from there. So it's not like it's a huge deal, but it still would be cool to just be able to push a button and say, okay, send it to POTA.
I mean, you can self-spot in Polo already, so like, why wouldn't that just be like, I can now push my log right to POTA?
Yeah, well, right, and I'm sure it can be done. It's probably just some kind of programming or coding thing, but that would be a game changer, because I think people just want to get the logs in there, and especially if you're doing multiple parks, like, you don't want to come home and the last thing you want to do after a rove is sit down at your computer and manually update, send the logs in right away.
Well,
so
they do have the feature already that if you do a multiple park activation, it'll create those separate logs on export for you with all the parks in it, each park. So each park would have its own separate log.
For in what?
In Polo.
In Polo, right.
It does have it now, yeah, right.
Yeah, no,
Whereas,
but
like,
I'm just saying it would just, Hammers, you have to like send it twice with the different park.
3 times, or however many parks you activate.
Yeah, you just change the file name, and
So that would be a game changer. I think that if that feature came out, I think every YouTuber would be out there. Headlines, new update on Polo. You need to get this now.
Well, I think that feature, though, is definitely a collaboration with the POTA folks themselves, because I think that's been one of their own things that they want, but they just need to create the infrastructure API components or apps to be able to tie into that. So, okay, anything else you got, or that?
No.
All right, well, so I don't have 3 of them, but I think obviously you guys both hit my big 2, which was that faster loading. I would like, at least in terms of scheduling, like I'm a big auto scheduler type guy. So like, if I can automate something, I'm just gonna like set it and forget it. So if I can get the app to do it automatically, where it doesn't prompt you every time you open it up to say go get the latest database because you haven't updated in a while, it should just automatically, if I say I want SOTA, flora and fauna, and POTA databases updated all the time, there should be a little switch in the settings that says toggle this, and it goes up and gets it. And if it can't find an interconnection, it then just waits and times out, goes to sleep, and then when it finds another interconnection, it goes and does what it's supposed to do. So that would be the one big thing, because I know when I first got there, when we were doing our dual activation, I opened up Polo and I accidentally, instead of hitting dismiss to go get the latest database update, I said, go ahead, go get it. And internet just choked. And the only thing I could get to do is kill the app and restart it. And, that's, first world problem, but at the same time, it still, stops me from getting to where I need to get to start logging. the other piece that I really would love to see is if in that stat section that it said, I've worked so-and-so at this time, how many times I've worked them, I'd love to be able to tap it, have a little window shade pop open that says, these are all the parks you've activated this person at. And so kind of keep, because the data is already there. You already know if, you might have worked them a park to park, or if they were just a hunter contact, when the last time you worked them by maybe date. So I could say like, I've worked, N1OG on, 8/14, and then I worked them at 9/7, and I see those two in that little, shade sheet. I could, basically, if I wanted to have a conversation with them, as some way to be able to say, hey, hey, last time we worked, we were at this park, blah, 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 it's kind of, good history and good information to kind of pass on to somebody. So I know that could easily be done because all the data is there, just, making it look, functional. And so that would be my wanted feature on top of what we already had. And then I don't know if I've got it set up wrong, but the QRZ lookup, I thought I've got it tested right. I thought I confirmed that my QRZ lookups, but every time I've used it, even with a good data connection, it doesn't always populate the person's name. And so like, I sit there and struggle and I'm like, well, why isn't that lookup working? I know QRZ and the API is, set up the right way. And it could have been just a bad connection between the API and QRZ, but I don't know. It's one of those things that I would love to have more rock solid, because I know when Hammers had it, Hammers would always tell me exactly who the person's name is, and I can just be like, oh yeah, thanks, Charlie, and move on from there. So that was always
so here's a question for you then. Do you pay QRZ for the lookups? Yeah. Okay.
I do. So that I have in place.
Because otherwise you're limited to like 100.
Yeah, no, I definitely, that is, all my home loggers have all that capability. They all use the API keys. So I'm very much, a paid member, a silver status or whatever the ridiculous thing was. So yeah, I want to take advantage of it. I want it there. When I have cell service, I want to be able to know who I'm talking to, just because, it's good information. So, and that would be my last one. So I don't know. Overall, I think both of those loggers, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, both of them are great loggers. So if you're going out to activate, pick both of them, pick one, doesn't really matter. Start with one and go to the other one if you want to take the leap. But that we ask for feature enhancements and improvements because we're those hams that have been using it for a while, and where we want the app to perform when we're out there, because we depend on it. So that's why we sound a little codgy and old man complain syndrome kicking in. But I think that's I'm
gonna make a prediction, and you're gonna hear it first on Live Free and Ham.
Okay.
I'm going to say within probably less than 5 years, Polo is going to be a logger where you're not even going to have to log. With AI, it's just going to listen to your contact and fill it all in. You've heard it first.
Well, I'm telling you right now, because I heard that they're working. I heard they're working on the API interface to your radio. So like, will no longer you can get cat control from your radio. So you can feed that into your tablet through a Bluetooth connection that will tell the radios, cat, I'm on frequency 14270, and it'll populate that automatically in your Polo log.
Yeah. But
that would be cool.
Yeah. I think honestly though, I think with this AI stuff and the stuff that I've been hearing that's supposed to come out and what you can even do now, I honestly think your log is gonna be able to listen to your conversation, your QSO, pull out the things it needs and plug it in, and you're not going to have to log. You're just going to have it open. It needs to be listening to you. So like for like Carlos, how awesome is that going to be? He opens it up on his phone. He's jumping out of an airplane. He starts doing it. Log's all done.
He won't be logging from
by the time he lands. He's already good. He's already logged everything. He's like, I got to record it and go back. And I'm like, oh yeah, it'll be all done. But it's going to happen. I mean, the stuff that AI is doing and is able to do. I mean, right now, like there's apps now that you can actually record a whole meeting, right? Just it'll listen to it and then it'll summarize it and put it into like a short summary that you can use as your quote unquote notes. And I mean, think of like how easy school's going to be. The teacher's up there blabbing away for 2 hours. You hit record, and then all of a sudden it brings up a paragraph of everything you need to know. And I can't see why a logger wouldn't be like that.
Yep.
So
yeah, no, well, all with the impetus that there's internet. because Paul's not going to be able to use any of the AI functionality because he's in the middle of the woods nowhere with no robots.
Listen, why don't you just go and what is it? What does Musk have? Starlink? Just get a Starlink.
Yeah, Starlink.
It'd be good to go. You'll have it everywhere.
Well, you know, you heard it here. We'll do a GoFundMe. So if you want Paul to be able to do all of the lookups and be able to get real-time data, then help fund our Starlink deployment for our, places that we have no internet. Cool. All right. Well, like we said, this is a great loggers. Both of them are well worth it. So if you haven't a chance, head over to the website. We'll post the links down in the show notes where you can download them and go up to their pages. Go show those developers some love. Tell them that you heard here on Live Free and Ham that you should download those loggers and give them a try. We guarantee you won't be disappointed no matter what. And if you haven't done a POTA activation yourself, play around with these apps first. Don't go out in the field and try them for the first time. That I speak from firsthand experience, but more so just play with them at home, play with them on your phone, learn how to use them in and out, and then go out and try it. And I guarantee your experience will be that much better. So any last bit of advice?
Good advice. Very good advice.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, let's wrap this up as always. So thank you again for joining Live Free and Ham. As always, we enjoy everybody in the podcast community. Remember, we have a Discord. So if you want to continue this conversation, you can head on over to our website at livefreeandham.com. At the very bottom is our Discord link. Please join, come hang out. We'd love to meet you, say hello. We're working on building the community a lot more, and we're eventually looking to hopefully do some meetups and that type of stuff. So, come join, be part of the fun, and let's continue on this conversation like we, have suggested in other episodes. Let's talk about, Polo and some of the features, and let's see if we can help these developers continue to build some, great apps and make our activations that much sweeter. So, as always, you can find us several ways and connect with us. You can head over to our shop at livefreeandham.com/shop, pick up our merch, our hat. We're going to be having a special release coming out, like we mentioned earlier in the show. So you want to check that out soon. If you're an Apple Podcast listener, you can always leave us a review on iTunes. But if you're not, we and every show link at the very bottom in our notes section have an SMS link. We want to hear from you. Please send us an SMS text that says, hey, I listened to the show. We love it. Or, hey, your show sucks. Go talk about, NASCAR or something. We'll take it all either way. And as always, you can support the show and help us through Patreon and buy us a beer links. We're actually working on improving that for the new year, so keep an eye out for that. We're going to start releasing to our Patreon members some of our early shows before they get out into the public, and a few other things like that with giveaways and the like. So stay tuned to that. Check our show, check our URL out, our website for more of that information. I'll be talking more in the future. And if you want to reach any of our hosts, you can find all of our contact information over at livefreeandham.com. And thanks again for listening. And from all of us at Live Free and Ham, 7-3.